How's it going, Raiders? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be focusing on free kits. Want to have a little discussion about the good and the bad when it comes to free kits. My personal thoughts and suggestions on things that the devs at Embark could potentially do or tweak to maybe give free kits a little bit of a, I'd say, I guess, balancing. And I also want to talk a little bit about the late spawns and spawning in general on Stella Montis. That's another big topic right now as well. So, start us off, I'm going to kind of go over the positive side of the free kits, and then we'll go into some of the negatives and then some of my suggestions as far as what can be done to potentially make them a little bit more balanced and fair. So obviously Arc Raiders is catering more towards the casual extraction audience, so free kits make sense. Just like Tarkov has the scav runs, and Arena Breakout Infinite also has their, scav run. Almost every single extraction shooter has some form of a free loadout or scav run that players can do in case they are, down on their luck, they're, starting to go broke, whatever that may look like. Arena Breakout Infinite actually takes it a step further, and you have like the secure ops mode where everything that you have equipped minus like your consumables, like your ammo, your grenades and healing items and things like that, if you die, everything that you have gear-wise stays with you. They just reduced the basically what the loot is worth on the map, so it's harder to kind of amass wealth fast that way, but it's also much less risk. So I do like the way that Arc Raiders is going about the free kits. I do think that it's important to have something in place for players who are, very casual players, have a tool at their disposal that they can use to go in and have like kind of like a risk-free type raid, to where they don't have to be super stressed out about losing their last good pieces of equipment or whatever that may look like. So I do think that is a huge positive, that the loadouts are free and they can be used at any point in time. Another benefit is, if you're trying to do quests, you just want to get in there and get something knocked out, you can throw on a free loadout kit, go in there, get it done, or try to. If you get killed, say, extract camping, or, a friendly backstab or something like that, or just actual, fair PvP, you're not really losing anything. Like, oh, there's a free loadout, it is what it is. It also lets you be able to kind of explore the maps and learn the maps and different, loot locations, quest locations, things like that, with pretty much no risk. So all of that stuff is a huge positive, because, you don't really have like a Tarkov PvE mode where you can go in, or even like an offline raid mode, and learn maps and quests and locations and, all these little cheeky spots and stuff like that. You have to do it, in an actual raid. So with the free loadouts and not really having to, wait for a cooldown timer or spend like in-game currency or whatever that may be, you can just run them. It makes doing that stuff a lot easier. So that's, another huge benefit, especially for the casual audience, casual player base. So definitely a lot of benefits. Some of the negatives that that I see with the free loadouts as they stand right now. They're kind of like a double-edged sword, right? So again, it's great that they're free, always accessible. You don't have to worry about timers or currency. But with that being said, you also can just continuously load up with free loadouts and go into maps and contest, players who are, actually going in there geared. And depending on what your free loadout is, you actually stand a decent chance at winning some of these fights, especially if you catch the person off guard, or if you're being that person who's like sitting in a dark corner, or extract camping, or whatever that may look like. Because the Stitcher is probably one of the best weapons in the entire game. Now, mind you, it's going to be level 1 on a free loadout, and you don't get a ton of ammo, but you can still basically take somebody out if your shots are, well placed enough with a magazine. So, it's a very good weapon. Even the kettle, even though it's semi-auto, if you can click fast enough, like, the kettle is, a great weapon to have as well. Now, is it going to hold up great against, a Torrente or something like that, or a Toro in close range and that? No. But still, I mean, if you have cover and things like that, you can actually use movement and cover to win a lot of these fights against guys that are wearing, medium heavy shields, and they're rocking, their upgraded anvils, or, I've even taken out people that are running, upgraded Torrentes and Toros and, Tempests, Batinas. Like, not that Batina's, an amazing weapon or anything, but, I mean, a free loadout, you would think, oh, well, you wouldn't stand a chance. Well, that's not the case. And that's part of the issue with the free loadout, is that people basically have zero fear of anything when they're running these kits, because even if they die, they're really not risking anything, and you can just pop one back on, jump back into a raid, and you're good to go. In fact, a lot of people even prefer running free kits just because it's faster for them to hit a free kit and go in, as opposed to gearing back up with their own stuff and then going into a raid, so it's less downtime. But the issue that creates is, people stop wanting to take in some of their better gear and weapons and that, because they're afraid that they're basically just going to run into a bunch of free kits that, even if they kill the free kits, they're not really going to be getting anything of value off of them. They're going to have their, level 1 weapons, some ammo, and then you might have like a grenade or a shield recharger or something like that. So you're not really, for what you're risking and what you're getting, taking on those players, it doesn't really balance out very well. And I think that's one of the major issues with free kits, is that it just creates that loop of almost like the Mosin Man from Tarkov, or even with Arena Breakout Infinite. You'd have people coming in with the Mosins, or, other like single shot, like bolt action, rifles, but they'd be rocking like the highest tier ammo that could 1 or 2 tap pretty much everything in the game. So they'd have no gear, have like maybe 1 or 2 bullets loaded and everything else in their safe pocket to reload, and then take out these people who are like geared up with tier 5, tier 6 gear, and okay, so they die, they may lose like 1 or 2 rounds of this really good ammo, but the reward benefit there is like super high, so they may risk like a couple, like 100,000 or something in ammo, if that, but they could end up getting out with like you know, 4 or 5 mil worth of, gear value. So that's really the main negative around the free kits that applies to every map. The issue with free kits on Stella Montis also ties into the spawning issue and late spawns, which I'll talk about here in a little bit, but that's a whole separate issue. But the main negative that I can see of the free kits is basically you're going to create this cycle of, just W keying players that don't care, and then it's just a perpetual rinse and repeat of the free kit. So then you end up not seeing a whole lot of other types of weapons or gear being used because it's just so easy to run a free kit. But don't get me wrong, I love running free kits, especially on Stella Montis, because the PvP is crazy and I use it as an opportunity to kind of brush up on my PvP, aim, movement, map knowledge and things like that. So again, it does have its benefits, but I think the negative on that side is going to eventually create a huge problem within the community, and I'm already kind of seeing that now. It's just, exacerbated by Stella Montis, because pretty much everyone runs free kits because of the spawns being broken and the spawn timer. So with that being addressed, I have a couple suggestions, and you can let me know in the comments down below if you think I'm on the right track, or what your ideas are, or if you think these are garbage, or if they're great ideas. But the one thing that I'm going to suggest that people are probably going to hate is take some of the, I guess, power away from the free kits, or that security that they have, and don't have them start with a shield. So literally you can spawn in with the same stuff that you already have weapon wise and that, or to take it a step further, you could restrict it to only, maybe you can spawn in with a kettle or a hairpin or a pharaoh, but the stitcher isn't part of it, just because the stitcher is so good. I mean, the kettle is still good too, but at least it's not a fully automatic. Or you can mix and match it and say, hey, certain free kits will get a shield, like the ones like Pharaoh and say the hairpin, but then if you spawn in with a kettle or a stitcher, you don't have a shield. And then you either have to find a shield, take it off of a player, or if you have the skill for the in-round crafting, you can find, the arc cell and the rubber parts to craft it. And I know people are going to say, well, if you don't have a shield, you don't stand a chance against anybody, blah, 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 blah. Which I agree to a certain point. Yes, it's going to be harder to take these fights and things like that, but in my mind, the free kit shouldn't be something that you can use to go toe-to-toe with other players and pretty much almost be on the same playing field to a certain extent. Obviously, like, your skill and, movement and all that stuff is going to play a part in it, but free kits should be used basically like a scav in Tarkov, where a lot of the times as a scav in that game, you spawn in, your stuff is garbage. Like, you're gonna have to try to, like, leg somebody to death, or find something better, or hopefully you catch somebody that you can one-tap them with, like, thorax or ear shot or something like that, where they don't have protection or whatever that looks like, because most of the time your ammo is garbage and your weapon is also garbage. and a lot of times you don't even have anything to like heal with. So I mean, you can be extremely handicapped in Tarkov, and Arena Breakout Infinite is kind of the same. Like, in a lot of cases, if you go up against anybody who has any kind of gear on as a scav, like, it's going to be a hard-pressed fight for you to win. You know, depending on your luck of the draw with the equipment that you spawn in with. So, I think if they adjust the free kits to where either you have the same loadouts, but nobody has a shield, or certain loadouts, like the Pharaoh, and if they give you like a hairpin, or let's say a Rattler or something, that you get a shield. Just because, I mean, let's be honest, especially like the hairpin and the Rattler, like, unless you're hitting headshot after headshot after headshot, like, your chances of killing somebody with one magazine from either one of those weapons is, like, slim. So you're going to be forced to reload. So, I mean, you kind of need a shield to be able to even potentially survive in most cases, unless you catch them off guard or something. But I think that would kind of level the playing field of people just like W keying out and trying to do, you know, just go toe to toe with players. Now, it could create the situation where people just play rattier and they hide in corners or extract camp or whatever, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's an extraction shooter. You're gonna have those problems no matter what. And at least if they are extract camping, if they don't have a shield, yes, they may get some shots off on you, but if you're able to tank some of those shots because you do have the shield, and then you know where you're getting shot from, and you're just able to turn and blast them, then you're probably still going to be able to, in most cases, kill them before they kill you. So, is it a perfect system? Is it a perfect, you know, answer? No, but I think that would kind of force people to play a little bit differently. Now, obviously, you'd still have the people, especially on Stella Montis, that are just going to W key and hope for the best and all that stuff, especially with the way the spawns are on that right now. But I think that would change it a decent amount to, you know, people may not be as aggressive with the free kits, and it would actually give players who are kitting up to go into raids a little bit more of a good feeling of, well, at least if I run into a free kit, I may have a better shot, because they're not going to have a shield unless they find one or they end up crafting one. You know, and you're going to say, well, to craft a shield, it's not that much. You can find those easy. It's true, but at least it has them focus on doing that first, as opposed to spawn in, I'm going to W key to like this area because I know it's a high traffic area, or I know this is a spawn, and do that right out the gate. Now they have to think of, okay, do I go and try to craft a shield first, or find one, or do I still just want to W key and test my luck, you know, and my skill, I guess. Another suggestion that I would throw out there, even though these next two I probably wouldn't really want to go with because it's going to time gate or put a cost behind the free kit. The first one would be to just say, hey, you get X amount of free kits per hour before it goes on a timer. So let's say in an hour you could run 3 free kits. And then if you try to run anything past that, each one is going to be like 5 or like a 10-minute like cooldown timer until that, you know, hour resets, or 2 hours, whatever it is. The only problem with that is that, you know, you could get extremely unlucky and have, you know, 2 raids that are back-to-back, you know, terrible raids, and then you do have that 3rd free kit that you use, but then you get out, and then you can't run a free kit for another, like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, whatever that timer is. So then your time gate is, you know, sitting there like, okay, well, now I have to either go in with, like, a hammer or, like, a, you know, BS, like, cheap gun, or, you know, actually run a kit. Um, Now, to throw out another potential option, you could also put it to where after, you know, the first, you know, say 3 to 5 free kits that you run in a day, everything past that, you have to pay a small amount of, like, credits. Or this is where they could use the excess, like, Raider deck creds to be like, hey, you can replenish your free kit with this, and get, like, 5 more or something, but it's gonna use, like, 500 Raider credits or 250 or whatever that looks like. So they could kind of mix and match, like, kind of like a timer and a potential cost for the free kits. Because right now, too, there's really no use for the Raider deck tokens once you have the deck completed. So a lot of people now are sitting there with, like, some people have thousands of those that are just there, not doing anything. There's no use for them. Or another cool concept, I think, which this one actually just popped in my head, was you could use those Raider, like, deck tokens to upgrade a free kit. So let's say they took the shields out of free kits. You could choose to spend the Raider tokens to put, like, a green shield on there. You could get some more, like, ammo and maybe some, like, healing items or something to kind of boost your free kit. And you could even take it a step further to, like, upgrade the free kit, but maybe only allow that to happen, like, you could do it, like, twice a day or something like that using those tokens, because that way, you know, you don't have people who have a bunch of that stuff saved up, or you have to make the cost high enough to, you know, make it to where people can't just, like, upgrade stuff over and over and over. But the thing is, like, if you could upgrade a free kit and, let's say, make it, you know, switch out the items to, like, better shields or better guns and things like that, at least then when you're fighting these people, if you're geared, you have better rewards for also beating them. So it's not just like, oh, you lost to a free kit, level 1, you know, green shield, level 1 Stitcher, whatever. Now people may say, oh, well, you have now a pay-to-win situation. Well, you make it to where it can only be used with in-game currency that you can't purchase. It has to be earned, like the regular currency, or by doing the feats. You can't go to the store and say, hey, I'm going to buy this stuff, and I'm going to upgrade my free loadouts and all that, you know, wonderful stuff. Because the last thing we want to do is introduce any kind of pay-to-win type stuff. But this way, the Raider tokens are also getting, like, another use. Because, like I said, once the deck is done, they just sit there. There's nothing else you can do with them. So kind of make it like, you know, a cool little thing that you can do to kind of trick out your free kits and make it worth it for people who actually, you know, fight you. And, you know, if you die and they loot you, you actually have, you know, better stuff, but you're still not risking anything in your actual stats. You're just burning through, like, those Raider tokens, and eventually, like, you'll have to replenish them by doing feats or whatever. But as long as they don't let you buy them, then I don't think that would be terrible. But just trying to throw out some different ideas for things to do with the free kit situation, because the last thing that you want to see is the game devolve around people running in basically like Mosin Man status, and it's like, oh, everyone's just running free kits now, because what's the point of running anything else? And of course, a lot of that is also tied around weapon balancing and the fact that a lot of the epic weapons and stuff like that really aren't necessarily, like, that much better than some of, like, the blues and greens and stuff like that, or even like a level 4 Stitcher can be on the same, you know, level as a Bobcat and stuff. So there's a lot that plays into it, but again, just my thoughts and suggestions for the free kit side. So again, let me know what you guys think in the comments. The last thing I was going to address real quick is I did want to talk briefly about Stella Montis and the spawn situation. So anyone that has played Stella Montis at all has probably fallen victim to you spawn in, it's fresh raid, you meet up with your first team potentially within the first like 10-15 seconds depending on how close of a spawn you got. Congrats, you win that fight, and then another spawn comes in like right behind you, right where you spawned in at, or even in front of you where that team that you just killed originally came from. And then other teams are dying and they're spawning in more players as well. So you hit this perpetual like cycle of kill a team, team spawns in, have to fight another team. Now, is it necessarily like that team dies and then instantly there's another team? No, there may be a little bit of a break in between, but that could be like 30 seconds or something. And then all of a sudden you're having to worry about, you know, taking on another team or two teams or whatever that may look like. And part of this comes down to just spawn locations and the game's algorithm choosing where it's spawning players in needs to be tweaked, especially for that map. And then the late spawn that kind of works with the other maps. Like, I talked about this in one of my other videos, that I think the late spawning has more benefits than it does negatives. I wouldn't want them to take that away, but there has to be some tweaking done to maybe when the people spawn in and the algorithm as far as where it tracks to spawn those players in, to avoid people spawn camping and things of that nature. Now, Stella Montis, I think, in all honesty, what they'd be better off doing, because that's kind of like a unique situation with the map size and the spawns. Couple suggestions on the spawning. One that I've seen suggested, and I'd kind of be okay with it, is you just have fresh raid spawns. So everyone spawns in at the same time. If the entire map gets wiped in the first 5 minutes, hey, Victor gets the rest of the time to go around and loot the map and do whatever. Now, you know, people are going to argue, okay, well, now Stella Montis' loot is so good and you can get so much stuff and da-da-da-da-da, which is true, but to be fair, Arc Raiders in general on pretty much every single map throws a ton of loot at you. The difference with Stella Montis is you find a lot more of like the epic quality stuff that you can either just sell or break down for like the Exodus materials and that. But here's the funny thing. I'm sure most of you are like myself, where you have a Patina blueprint and you might have, say, like a Tempest blueprint or something like that to be able to craft some of the epic weapons. But for the most part, like, the vast majority of the Exodus materials that I have just sit in my stash. They don't go anywhere. They're there. I'm literally saving the stuff for the expedition to try to get the maximum amount of points, skill points. But, like, I can't even craft a lot of the epic stuff. I don't even have the Tempest blueprint. I have the Patina blueprint. Don't have the Bobcat, don't have the Tempest, don't have the Volcano. Don't have any of that stuff. So they just sit there. So it's like, yes, you could sell them and you can make money and whatever, but again, to be honest, this game, it's not hard to amass money if that's what your main focus is and that's what you really want to do, is just make money. So do I have an issue with people being able to run around Stella Montis and you know, loot it if they've managed to outlive all of the other teams or whatever. I don't really care. So I would be okay with them just doing one spawn of players. The other suggestion that I was thinking of is that having a set time. So you spawn in fresh. The next spawn in would happen at, say, maybe like 24 minutes or 23 minutes. And then the last spawn would happen at like 17 minutes or something. And have it to where it doesn't replace like every single team. Maybe it only replaces like half. So let's say theoretically there's, you know, on a fresh spawn in trios, there's 8 teams that spawn into Stella Montis or whatever it is. I have no clue what the numbers are. But let's say by the 23-minute mark, there's only, say, 3 teams left. Well, instead of spawning in another 5 teams to make it, you know, a full 8-player, you know, or 8-team map again, maybe they only spawn in 3 teams. And then when the 17-minute mark hits or whatever, if there's 2 teams left or 1 team, then they spawn like another 2 or 3 teams in. So that way it's not hitting like, oh, you're getting like a full like dump of players just continuously, and you have no breathing room to like actually recover. But then it still keeps the tension because you know, like, okay, once 23 minutes hits, there's going to be at least 3 or 4 teams that may spawn back in, but you're not sure where they're going to spawn, so you got to be on your toes. Or maybe they cut it down to where there's only 1 respawn, and it basically fills the server back up to, like, say, half, or whatever that is. Because I think that would work out a little bit better as opposed to just having 1 fresh spawn and, like, that's it. Because then you know that it's like, okay, the majority of the players have been eliminated or whatever. I'm probably good to kind of run around and do my thing. At least having 1, if not 2 other spawn times, as opposed to having just like 1 fresh spawn. So those are just some ideas. I don't really want to beat that topic into the ground because I know a lot of people have already expressed their frustrations and suggestions with it, but that's just my thought process on it and some things that could potentially be tweaked or done with it to make the situation a little bit better. But specifically for Stella Montis, not necessarily for all the other maps, but just that one specifically. But you made it through the video to this part. I appreciate you. I'm about 6 subs away from 100, so still trying to hit that 100 sub mark by the end of the year. So if you could do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button, as that does help me out and it helps out with the old YouTube algorithm, I would greatly appreciate it. And I will catch y'all in the next one. Peace.